Okay, so uh, where should I start at? It's been a while since I went live, and I've already told y'all many times that I try not to get so heavy into just reporting on just news because I've already been there so many times. That's why it's like I had the same energy when I started this channel. I said, well, only if I have more resources and I do this, that, and the other. Well, with what I have right now, I can do that. I can go live easily and I can just talk about any and everything. But what I realized is that it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. I wasted the past 5 years doing that. Since 2020, when everything was locked down, I did not start my channel yet. But it was in 2021. That's when I started my channel with the basis of comedy skits. I only put like a few out. But that's when I started thinking, well, I'm doing a lot of research and I want to be able to share that as well because I'm learning new things every day. So then my last live I did, which was probably like a month ago. Yeah, it was a month ago. I pretty much explained everything in regards to my channel and the things that I'm changing and getting back into. Now I didn't post anything to let any of y'all know that I'm going live. So if y'all catching the rerun, then that's fine. But I had to switch the camera around because everything from my last live, not the first one, but my last live was backwards when I was showing um, some articles and stuff on online. So I want to talk about the Venezuela strike. Now I haven't been watching the news. You hear anything going on in the background? No. The TV's not on. The radio's on. The only time I get to hear the news if it's at church, if it's at work, and even on YouTube, I'm not even really like I mean I'll watch other YouTubers if they explain something, but to go directly to the news, like Fox, CNN, whatever it is, I don't do that no more because I realize it can get overwhelming and depression. Depression, all that's at an all-time high. And I've already said in my videos, like the ones that I just um that I label random thoughts, I already told y'all some of the things that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis. So doing that along on top of that, that's not going to help me to succeed in whatever I would like to do. So I kind of went off on a tangent on that. But this whole Venezuela strike, and I already have everything written and lined up so that way I can do things in order. Because I really want to keep this under an hour because there's a lot of other topics I want to cover. But I realize there's a lot of other things in life that's demanding from me. So I have to prioritize things. This right here, yeah, putting things out there and insight on some things. And like I said, I don't know everything. I'm still doing my research. But doing that, it's going to help other people to, understand. And if there's something that I'm wrong at, then I'm going to come and I'm going to address it. So with this Venezuela strike, it's more than just oil. People are saying, "Oh well, Trump is, he's just trying to, trying to buy up the oil and all the resources. He's trying to take over these different countries. He needs to leave them alone. This, that, and the other." I've already said in a lot of my videos, there are some things I agree with what he does. And there are some things I strongly disagree of what he does or says. There was somebody in the last live that said, well, not one person, but a couple of people, but this one person it was like a long exchange of words between the two of us. And I've already said, when it comes to me, Whenever I make a point, it's either it's either up to you to take it or to leave it. I'm not gonna argue and debate and go back and forth with you. And while I did compromise on that, I wasn't arguing with him. I was just trying to show him what my channel's all about and where I stand in regards to Trump's comments on Reiner. I said it doesn't make sense for you to, and I'm just explaining some things from my last live. I'm gonna get to the topic at hand. Like I said, just bear with me. There, and then y'all can also leave y'all comments in the comment section because, like I said, the way the cameras flip, I can't go back and then, you know, because the way it's angled, it's gonna make everything like the words. For example, this right here. Y'all can see this clearly. The words are not flipped backwards. It's not in the reverse angle. So, but yeah, going back to that, I was saying to the guy in the comment section, I said it's very hypocritical for Trump to say those comments, especially after Reiner got killed in a tragic way. Him and his wife, their son stabbed them to death. Why would you say something like that? I understand that y'all did not agree politically. You know, he said some things about you that was wrong. You know, you can't help that. This is a country of freedom of speech. What are you expecting? Now, you can defend yourself, but if the guy's already, gone, why even continue to beat the dead horse? Like, literally, that's what he was doing, beating the dead horse. You know, it's a saying, but that's literal. Like, he's gone. He's dead. Why are you still kicking him? All you had to do was just leave your comments, leave your condolences, leave it at that. You did not have to go to the extent of saying, "Oh, well, he tragically died, because he had TDS." You did not have to say that. If he was alive and there wasn't nothing going on as far as with health wise or anything like that, yeah, you can joke or whatever. But the joke on a man while he's down is crazy work. Reiner condemned what happened to Charlie Kirk. That was the point I was trying to get to this guy in the comment section, okay? So then we just continue to go on and on and on and on. I said, bro, I get your point. Reiner didn't make the best kind of comments or didn't have the best, I guess, words, if you will, of Trump in the past. I'm like, I know for a fact that Reiner did not agree with, some of the things that Charlie Kirk, because the political points were two different views. So for Reiner to condemn and say that Charlie Kirk did not deserve to be killed, for his political views or whatnot, and now his family has to deal with that. So Reiner had the decency to put politics aside, okay, and give his condolences to Kirk's family, to his wife, and especially his kids that don't have a dad no more. But then for Trump to do this is nasty work. That's the part I was trying to get to him. And then you know what he said? He said, "Oh, well, you never. I don't even see you did nothing on your channel in regards to defending Charlie Kirk and saying anything about the things that Trump has done that's good." I'm like, bro, do your research. People base your whole identity off of one video. Things change over time. Some people, when they do their channels, it's like a journal. They may change certain views as they make more videos in the years to come, okay? I know this because some people on YouTube have said this. Yeah, this is more of like a journal of my life. Some of the things I talk about. And, some people actually said, "Oh, I may need to, I think I'm going to delete some of those videos because I'm actually changing some, viewpoints on how I view the world." It's a journal at the same time. So if this guy did his research and he went on my channel, he would see I made two videos condemning people that were mocking Charlie Kirk's death. I told him, I'm like, you base my whole viewpoint, like I said, I don't like getting into politics because politics is messy work right now. It's messy work. You know, politicians, they're throwing dabs at each other. Not dabs, but they're throwing punches at each other. And you know, there's some things that is not getting done because it's all, oh, that person didn't do that. Oh, he didn't do this. Oh, he said he was going to do that, but he didn't do it. That's what's going on now. But when it came to the 24 election, there was no choice. If Kamala was in, things would be screwed. I did not vote. I've already said that. And for people that want to get on those that did not vote, screw you. I'm being real. Because don't y'all know that they already going to have whoever they want in office anyway. There's an agenda, you know, there's different things and, you know, agendas that need to be done. But particularly right now, Trump is in there for a reason. I don't have no hatred toward nobody. When it comes to politics, like I said, politicians hate each other. They will wish harm on each other. This is crazy work. Trump almost got assassinated 2 times, but I'm like, you would expect, more. There was more attempts, but those 2 attempts were closely. You know, those were close. And I'm probably already maybe 15 minutes in talking about something that was different than what I was originally on here for. I'm still going to get to this part though. But the fact of the matter is, we get so divided. We get so hooked up on politics. People were canceling family plans during Thanksgiving over whoever their family member voted for. That's diabolical work. How are you going to let 2 people that you vote for that don't know anything about you, they don't even know you exist, divide you from family and friends that know you exist? Understand that. Understand that. That's the part I never get. And, you know, I don't really talk about, you know, politics with some of my family because some things they're not going to understand. And I've already told you with my stance on voting. There's going to be things that the politician's going to do that's going to disappoint you. I already knew that there was going to be things that Trump was going to do that was going to disappoint me. Case in point, his comments about Reiner. So, anyways, yeah, I had to let that guy know. I said, search my channel. I made 2 videos condemning those that mocked and celebrated his Charlie Kirk's death and was actually happy and making memes and stuff like, oh, watch your neck. That kind of stuff. Sick. So, to kind of get caught up with what's going on with this Venezuelan crisis, it's more than just oil. And I'm going to play this video here. This was like 11 days ago. I'm pretty sure most of y'all have already watched it. Only watched briefly some of it, but like I said, I didn't watch all the videos. So we're basically going to be reviewing some things. And then I'm also going to just go down the list of everything of why I said that this is not only dealing with oil. It's more than oil. And yes, it is oil, but it's not also in the U.S. interest. So let's watch this video right quick. Let's see. How the U.S. capture Venezuela's President Maduro. Let's see. Okay, we got this ad.
To get the best results. AppLovin is now giving early walks.
All right, this is BBC.
Hours after President Trump announced the US had captured Venezuela's president after launching strikes on the country. A social media page run by the White House posted this video. You can see here. It shows Mr. Maduro.
And like I've already stated in my other lives, if any of y'all are new, my channel is small. Y'all can see that my setup is not the best, but I'm going to work with what I have because I've been overthinking a lot of things. But I realize if I use what I have, and whenever I do have more equipment, then I'm already consistent with the little bit I have. I made a video like maybe 2 months ago where I said, start with what you have. You should always start with what you have. Because once you get with, all the fancy equipment and stuff, most people, sometimes I've been hearing a lot of people saying, man, sometimes I'm finding myself not using everything that I thought I need, like on a day-to-day basis. It's just sitting there. Let's continue.
Maduro entering the Drug Enforcement Administration headquarters in New York. It was posted alongside the comment, "perp walked." Now, that's an expression for the public display of an alleged perpetrator of a crime by law enforcement officials. Mr. Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, had been flown to an airbase outside New York after being captured in the capital, Caracas. He was then transferred to Manhattan, where he was indicted on drug trafficking and weapons charges. U.S. reports say he is spending the night.
All right, now the drug trafficking charges. When we had the Venezuelan gate, I can't even pronounce it, but y'all probably know what I'm talking about. That gang, and they deported them back. They're all intertwined. They're all intertwined together.
At the notorious Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Now, that's a facility that has handled many high-profile cases, including rapper R. Kelly, the Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell, and most recently.
Okay, hold on. Now, the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, that's still in the back of my mind. And I've already said that in one of my videos. So if some of y'all that be like, oh, well, Trump needs to focus on the Epstein files. Trust me, that's not going under the radar with me. But at the same time, though, will anybody be able to handle whatever is on those files? Because it's a lot of people on those files. Okay? You have not just the Republicans, we have both sides. Why didn't, when Biden was in office, why didn't Biden release the files? Why didn't he release the files? Why didn't the previous administrations, when those cases actually happened, when those victims were actually suffering, why were they silent? Now that Trump is in, yeah, that was one of his campaign promises. That's true. But the question is, now they're making a big deal. Oh, well, Trump don't want to release it. Well, my question to anybody that was in the previous administration, or that's so much of a Democrat, why didn't they release them? Why didn't they release them? And then for the whole thing with Trump and Stormy Daniels, men going to handle the business. It may not be the right thing or the most moral thing to do, but men are going to be men. As crazy as it is, some men are just going to be that way. They're going to have some special needs, right? Or some needs that need to be met. But let's not forget about Bill Clinton and Monica. Come on. If you would have asked me, that was worse than what this whole thing with Trump and the whole hush money thing. That's nothing compared to what Bill Clinton did. Doing nasty work in the Oval, oh my goodness, in the Oval Office, out of all places, that's where you're going to do it at. That's nasty work. We want to compare those two issues, those two things. I would say that the one with Bill Clinton is worse, but let's go on and continue. I'm sorry. Like I said, for those that know me, that watch my other lives. That's what I do. Sometimes I go off on a tangent. Whatever comes to my mind, that's what I'm going to talk about as well.
Recently, Sean Diddy Combs. Mr. Maduro had been taken to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba before being flown to New York. US officials releasing this photo you can see of him here on board the USS Iwo Jima as it headed to Cuba. Due to make his first federal court appearance.
Oh, they gave him a bottle of water. At least they did that nice enough, you know what I'm saying? At least they gave him a bottle of water.
USS Iwo Jima as it headed to Cuba. Due to make his first federal court appearance, we understand, on Monday. In the coming hours here on BBC News, we will bring you all the latest reaction and analysis from our expert guests and the BBC's range of correspondents here and abroad. So we start our coverage with our world news correspondent, Joe Wood.
If you're watching this right now, I hope, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears that 1 in 3 people on this earth do not have access to clean water, you don't just feel bad. I hope.
You know what? Okay, before we pause the video, now that ad was talking about nobody having clean water. You know, I've been hearing that for years. The question is, what are we doing? What is the government doing in these countries? There's so much corruption that these governments in these countries cannot do anything for their own people. That's one thing I don't understand. But me, I don't mind donating, but I want to make for sure my money's going there. I'm not saying that I haven't donated anything, but sometimes you still have to even question that, because it's like, man, well, what's the government doing? Why are we still getting these ads for, we need food to go to this country, we need funds to get clean water? It's like, what are we doing as oh my goodness, I'm stuttering. As a world, to where we still have these same problems. With all the resources, all the advancements, and we're still...
It was a sight not seen since the Cold War. A Latin American city under US fire. In the dead of night, bases across Venezuela were struck in a huge coordinated strike. Terrified people, some thinking it was an earthquake, soon realized they were under attack. But this was not designed to be the start of a prolonged campaign, but rather cover for an operation to capture Venezuela's president. A few hours later, this extraordinary image was released by President Trump. Nicolas Maduro, who just a few hours before had ruled over tens of millions of people in US custody on board the USS Iwo Jima.
It was dark. And it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice.
For more than a decade, Nicolas Maduro had ruled over Venezuela. He had overseen an authoritarian regime. Just over a year ago, he claimed victory in highly disputed elections. In recent months, his forces had been on high alert, a response to the ramping up of pressure from the US. That pressure took the form of a massive build-up of forces in the Caribbean. The US had always insisted it was about combating drug smuggling.
Wait, hold on. Let me go back.
From the US. That pressure took the form of a massive build-up of forces in the Caribbean. The US had always insisted it was about combating drug smuggling, but few thought that was credible. And yesterday it was confirmed. Their aim was regime change.
We demand the immediate liberation of...
Right now, there's a whole thing with Iran and the protests that's going on there. If y'all remember, there was talks about a regime change there, but Trump was saying, well, he was kind of not interested in doing that and just leaving Iran as it is. But even the whole Israel and Iran thing, or Iran conflict back in June was a whole hot mess, because one thing I don't understand about with the Republicans is how they have an unwavering support for Israel. I don't get it.
President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores, the only president of Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro.
Nicolás Maduro.
But that will not happen. The US says Nicolas Maduro and his wife will face federal charges in New York, where they arrived yesterday afternoon. According to President Trump, the US is now in charge of Venezuela.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years.
Many people, including Nicolas Maduro, have always insisted this was about Venezuela's vast oil reserves. That view will not have been changed by this announcement.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the...
You know what? Let me pause that right quick. It's time to do some actual research. Like I'm talking about like actually typing in stuff. Because see, we can look at these videos and hear things out. But in order for us to really understand about how this is more than just oil, I'm just gonna ask Google a question. Now you know how AI would give you like fast results. Well, with this, you still have to look at articles and then compare to make for sure that it's still valid. Because what I found out, sometimes AI would throw something up in one search, but then if you research it again, you may change a few words in the search bar. It shows something completely different. So let me see. Are drugs coming out of Venezuela? That was the first thing that came up. This thing already knew what I was searching. That's crazy, man. AI is getting way too advanced. That's crazy. Anyway, are drugs coming out of Venezuela? Yes, Venezuela is a significant drug trafficking hub with large amounts of cocaine, particularly from Colombia. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Even the Colombian president know his days are numbered. Trump may be coming for him next. I'm going to talk about that after this. Moving through the country and out to global markets, especially via Caribbean air and sea routes. Sea routes. A situation the U.S. has actively targeted with military actions against alleged traffickers in recent years. Major export point, Venezuela serves as a primary launch pad for cocaine heading to the U.S. and Europe. Now I hope the lighting is good because the light coming from the window, the sunlight coming from the window. So it says cooperation lacking. Historically, Venezuela has been less cooperative with international drug interdiction efforts compared to other Latin American nations. Let me do some more searching so that way it's not so much of me just going based off the first thing I see AI gives me. Because like I've already said, sometimes if you change a little bit of wording in the search bar, you may find it to be a little bit different, a different outcome in the next time when you press the enter. It may say something different than what you saw before. All right, so here is an article from KCRA. This was like maybe like last week. This is still fairly new. Let's see. If y'all hear me sniffling, my sinuses is going all kind of directions because this weather that we have here in Georgia is bipolar. It was just 70 something degrees, well 60 almost 70 degrees like a week ago, and that weather was like lasting for 2.5 weeks. But now things are cold again, like below freezing. at night. It's crazy. All right, so we close that out. So from KCRA, the Trump administration has set its sights on Venezuela in its latest campaign against illegal drugs, but data shows that the country is responsible for just a silver of drug trafficking directly to the United States. The Get the Facts data team analyzed data on cocaine and fentanyl trafficking. While Venezuela is a player in cocaine manufacturing and trafficking, drug seizure data shows that it's not as prominent a supplier of cocaine to the U.S. as other South American and Latin American countries. So, like I already said, Colombia has something to do with this too. And Trump already said something about their leader being involved in this. So that literally backs up everything that he just said. Or not he, but she. What this article just said. Alright. There is also no evidence that any significant level of illegal fentanyl is the primary killer in U.S. overdose deaths, which can be true because there's other things that we have to factor in. There's other vices. There's alcohol. It's drugs. I don't know. I don't even know why they say, yeah. Of course, it's not the primary killer. There's been drugs that people overdose on anyway when they go to the hospital. Antidepressants. What are we talking about? We're talking about drugs. So for them to put this as it's kind of gaslighting situation to me. Okay, so it says UNODC analyzes global drug trafficking based on reporting from its member states, open sources, and drug seizure information. Most illegal fentanyl enters the U.S. from Mexico, which is true. That's why Trump was trying to tighten up on the border. So once he did that, he's like, okay, why is the drug still coming in? Why is this boat still coming? You get what I'm saying? So he closed that floodgate for the drugs to come in. Now he's trying to figure out other ways. Okay, how are the drugs still coming in, or what other ways can I prevent the drugs from coming in? And when I first heard about the boats being seized and airstrikes striking the alleged drug boats out there, I was like, man, Trump is overstepping his bounds and stuff. But I realized that other administrations are not doing what he's doing. And I told you before that I don't agree with everything that he does. But he sure enough has the balls to do some of the things that these other presidents are not doing. And for those that want to say that that Trump and Putin are best friends and they're, for lack of a better word, in the same bed together, or what I mean by that is, he's kissing each other's behind or whatever. No. If Trump is so much for Russia, then why is he taking Venezuela? We already see what's going on with Ukraine. And Poland was just complaining that Russia was in their airspace. I'm going to cover that. That's on the list of things I wrote down to talk about, because I'm trying to lead everything back to why it's more than just oil. But y'all can read more of that article. Like I said, there's some articles that are not really explaining or they're not telling everything for what it is. Because if it was like an issue, why wasn't it taken care of a long time ago? All right, for example, here is this. This is the one of the things that I wrote down. The Biden administration had a bounty on Maduro. All right? They're not talking about this. They're not talking about this. Did the Biden administration have a bounty on Maduro? All right, so AI didn't show a overview or or explanation, but the articles here. Okay, for example, the New York Times, and we already know how some articles may be biased towards certain, like whatever political side they are always going to be they are always going to be biased. But this is what the New York Times said. All right, give it a second to load. It was 15 million, from what I heard. So I did more research, right? All right, I can't get into this, but they want me to subscribe. I got too many subscriptions. I'm not subscribing for this. More money out of my pocket I cannot afford. But y'all get the point. New York Times. That was January 10th, 2025. That was a year ago. A year ago. The Biden administration said on Friday that it was offering $25 million for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. I can't click on there because I'm going to have to pay up money I don't have. I'm not paying. I'm telling you, I'm not paying. The news should be free. Come on, man. Because I'm hearing garbage anyway. I'm hearing bad things. Why would I want to pay for money? Yes, I understand, journalism, needs money, but New York Times got enough money. They're being funded by the government, man. Come on. Let me see if I can find something else. Biden administration. Bounty on Maduro. Let's see if it's going to pull anything up. Still not pulling nothing up. Alright, so I put it in AI mode since it didn't automatically just pull up on its own. Alright, so this is the AI mode, and then this is all the sites right here that's attached to the results that came up on the AI mode. In January 2025, during the Biden administration, when it says it's, they're talking about the Biden administration. In January 2025, during its final days, the Biden-Harris administration increased the reward for information leading to the arrest or conviction of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro to $25 million. The original amount, like I just said, $15 million. See, the bounty was first established in March 2020. Oh my goodness. This was 6 years ago? Well, I mean almost 6 years ago because it's not March. But still 6 years ago. I don't care. 6 years ago? Are you serious? Trump was in office during that time too. There's a lot of things, like I said, the way how things go. There's a time and place for everything. But he was indicted in the U.S. for narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. This is March 2020. So this was like 15 million. But here's the thing. Biden raised it to 25. This move occurred on the same day Maduro was sworn in for a disputed third presidential term. Okay. It was intended to signal solidarity with the Venezuelan people following a fraudulent election. And I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to go there. Subsequent increase 50 million. In August 2025, under the second Trump administration, the reward was doubled to 50 million after the Cartel of the Suns was designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Let me search that up. Hold on. We're getting somewhere now. Cartel of the Suns. Okay, so here it is. The Cartel of the Suns is an umbrella term used to describe an alleged drug trafficking network and related criminal activity involving members of the armed forces of Venezuela in Bolivarian. I would just Bolivian, man. I don't know why they. Anyway, Bolivarian, but it sounds like Bolivia, if you ask me. National Intelligence Service, including high-ranking officers and political officials, which was founded in 1993, and then the territories Venezuela. But why would it be armed forces? Hold on. Now this really got me thinking. Hold on, let me check some. Let me check something real quick, y'all. Let's see. Or I'm gonna have to charge my phone before it dies. Alright, I think we're good now. Okay, so most of y'all are probably gonna catch the replay after this, so it's not really that much going on, and I really have to still learn the algorithm and when's the best time to post. You know, it's just trial and error when it comes to YouTube and content creation. But going back to this, the armed forces, so Bolivia's involved in this too? Hold on, man. This is crazy. Bolivian National Intelligence Service. Okay, hold on. Correction. It's not Bolivia. It's Bolivarian National Intelligence Service. See, they had me thinking it was Bolivia. Good thing I researched. That's a good thing to research and know that. Yeah, you know, I misunderstood, had a misunderstanding, but I was able to correct it. So, correction, not Bolivia. It's a service called Bolivarian National Intelligence Service. So, to know more about them, says the Bolivarian National Intelligence Service, and then it goes on in Spanish. I don't know if I can. Oh my my goodness, it's been a while with Spanish since high school. Servicio Bolivariano de Inteligencia Nacional. I can't, whatever. Is a premier intelligence agency in Venezuela. It is an internal security force subordinate to the vice president of Venezuela since 2012 and is dependent on Vice President Delcy Rodriguez. It has been described as the secret police force of the Bolivarian government. That's crazy. History. The Venezuela Intelligence Agency has an extensive record of human rights violations. And isn't that what the Venezuelan people are so tired of? They were actually celebrating. I don't know if people ever even thought about it. To see the reaction of the majority of Venezuelan people celebrating that their oppressive leadership was finally crushed. And you got people complaining, oh, Trump did. Don't y'all get it? There was a bounty on him already. The last administration did not do nothing. They didn't have the balls. Trump, I already told you, Trump is on mode. He does not care. He's focused. He's blocking out everything. He doesn't care what nobody thinks. And like I said, even in regards to the comments, I strongly disagree with what he did, what he said. But this guy is on mode. He does not care. He does not care. He has the balls to do things that the previous administration did not do. They had the chance. They blew it. So this right here just opens up more stuff. You see? This is corruption on a whole nother level, y'all. Come on. Supposed to be some security, some secret police. There's no police. This is just a decoy to corruption, if you will. They're just trying to hide behind something or hide behind a badge just to commit more crime. That's nasty work. Okay, so now that we understand what that means, let me go back to the original thing. Okay, that was the cartel of the Suns. Okay, hold on. Went back too far. Hold on. 3 days ago, wiretaps caught Colombian cocaine group discussing Venezuelan's military's cartel of the Suns. Alright, so I think this is Canada. Yeah, this is Canada news. Okay, so CBC News obtained wiretaps showing Colombian group plan to move cocaine with help from Venezuelan military. I told you, man. That article that said that it wasn't just Venezuela that was contributing to drugs, but other Latin American countries, well, that's exactly what's going on. That's what Trump is talking about. Like I said, the Colombian, he's coming for Colombia next. Didn't I just say that? He's coming for Colombia next. See how one thing leads to another? Okay? Alright, so okay, the broker told his client he had a relative in the Little Red Party with links to the famous Suns, who, for an upfront fee, would guarantee safe passage of the container with the cocaine until the ship docked at the Venezuelan port. The port. So for those that were saying that Trump was just striking boats and not knowing what he was striking, What does the port have to do with? Water, okay? What transportation leaves a port? A boat. I rest my case on that. Y'all can, alright, this is CBC. This was like 3 days ago. Just type in wiretaps caught Colombian cocaine group, or just put Colombian cocaine group discussing Venezuelan military's cartel of the Suns. Y'all can search this up. I'm moving on because, like I said, I'm already like 44 minutes in. I already said that I want to do things under an hour, but I don't think that's possible right now because I just said a mouthful, and that's just off of one thing. One thing. Like I said, I'm trying to be more organized. I'm still new to the live. I wish I did lives in the past so that way I could be more, organized. But I'm learning. I wish I'd done these things earlier, but there's no better time to start than now. So that's what I'm doing right now. All right. So the next thing is, oh yeah, the oil situation. They're like, oh, well, Trump took Venezuela because of the oil. Okay. That's true, but why though? See, we don't understand that. We have other adversaries out there. Okay, for example, that's one thing I noticed as a child. I'm like, man, everything's made in China. Like, hold on, let me use an example. Let me see this stapler right here. Let me see, where's the stapler made from? It says Taiwan. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Taiwan. There's a little thing going on with China and Taiwan. It's always been that way in the past, but right now we're really trying to keep that invasion from happening. All right, so I was trying to use an example, but I'm still going to search for some more examples. All right, this right here, this bottle right here, where is this made from? Let's see, where is it made from? Okay, this one says USA. Oh, hold on. I thought it did until I read the label. Product of China. Okay, let me see what else. This bottle right here, my water bottle. It keeps the water cool, right? It's a very good bottle. Where is it made from? Okay, it's designed in New York City, but it says it's responsibly made in China. Huh. What else can I find that's made in China? Let me see. Is this right here? Is this made in China or is this made in the U.S.? This pencil sharpener right here. Let's see. Made in China. Let's see what else. I got a lot of stuff. Like I said, I have to organize my room. Alright, let's see what else. What else can I pull? Okay. This light thing right here. I want to put this in my closet. You have those ads on TV to say, have you struggled with trying to see in the dark or whatever? They say, well, we have this new invention that will help you to better improve your life. In other words, right? We've always seen those commercials when we were young, when we were kids. So this right here, made in China. I don't have to go more and more and more. I don't have to look at everything in my room and just pull everything out. Y'all get the point. Most of everything is made in China. So, the whole trading thing right now, the tariffs and all that, it's going to affect some of those things. But with that being said, not even just China, but Russia too. They're already trying to set up places in Venezuela. China, for example. I'm going to ask, is China, or let me just ask this question. Who buys the most oil from Venezuela. Like I said, if it's you, it's fine. I'm just, like I said, I'm just gonna ask a question. Like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm gonna correct myself. It is what it is. Boom! I told you. China is overwhelmingly the largest buyer of Venezuela's oil. That is why Trump is doing what he's doing. The whole Cuban Missile Crisis, the Cold War. The missiles was right there when Russia did what they did. It says consistently taking the majority of its exports, especially since U.S. sanctions limited other markets through the United States, has resumed some purchases in countries like India, Spain, and Cuba. Also import Venezuelan crude. China uses creative methods like bartering, transshipment, and debt repayment to secure this heavy crude, which is refineries prefer. Now the question is, what are they trading? What are they bartering? What is it? What is it that they're bartering? Okay, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. What is China bartering? Alright, so y'all got that, right? I already knew it was going to search, but I said, just in case it does, let me try to prepare myself to correct myself. But it turns out that's exactly the correct answer. It's China. Alright, so what is China bartering in Venezuela? Let's see. Alright, so China primarily barters with Venezuela through massive oil-backed loans, providing financing, infrastructure, medicine, and military tech. Okay, alright, military tech. Do you see what's going on? Don't you see what's going on? Let me see what. Let's go back. Let's go back in history lane right quick. All right, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuban Missile. Man, I'm typing all kind of wrong letters. I gotta practice on my typing skills. Anyway. All right, Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis, also known as the October Crisis in Cuba or the Caribbean Crisis, was a 13-day confrontation between the governments of the United States and the Soviet Union. Let's see what it was all about. Let's see. All right, hold on. I want to read more on this, but this is what the AI overview says. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a tense 13-day standoff. I've already read that. In October 1962 between the U.S. and the Soviet Union after the Soviets secretly placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, bringing the world to the brink of nuclear war. It ended with a diplomatic deal where the Soviets removed the missiles in exchange for the U.S. promising not to invade Cuba and secretly moving its own missiles from Turkey. So you see what I'm saying? Okay, that was Turkey. Hold on. So what's Trump doing with Greenland now? Let me see. Hold on. We getting somewhere now. We getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. The whole thing with Greenland, that's another thing on the topic. But hold on, I'm going all over the place. Some things I may have to come back. You know what? I'm going to probably make another live. I would have to because I'm going to have to go to work soon. And I'm going to... Oh, boy. And I kind of thought to myself, like, I'm a young person. We have a lot of information, but what I realize is that some of us, we don't do that. We don't do any research. We just continue to live life. Look, I want to live my life, and at the same time, sometimes I question why am I the one that has to be informative with a lot of things. With much wisdom is much grief. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that saying comes from a verse in the Bible. I think it's somewhere in Proverbs, but I might have to research that. I don't want to misquote any verses or anything like that. So with our parents back then, they weren't focused on the news. I mean, they heard about things, but they never really paid it no mind. But right now, with all that we know, with all the technology that we have compared to what our parents had back then, we do a lot of researching. We're on the internet a lot. So that's why when they do surveys on us, they'll say, yeah, that this generation is like the most depressed or whatever. But I might have to make another live. Let me go ahead and check this one off. Talked about that. Okay. Trump seizing oil, China stuttering. Trump seizing oil, China buys more oil than us. Yes, I did that. Check. Biden administration's bounty on Maduro. Yes, check. Talked about that. Comment on America seizing Venezuela for its own interests. Didn't talk about that. Venezuela, Guyana crisis. Oh yeah, let me talk about that right quick, okay? Cuban Missile Crisis. Yes, I talked about that. Did a correlation. I compared it to what's going on now. Compared, some of the similarities. Okay. Now there's two other things or a few other stuff I may have to talk about in another live because I already know that this is probably over an hour right now. Alright. So here's the thing. Let's see. So with Turkey, I mean it's like the same thing with wow, that's crazy. Alright, Cuban Missile Crisis, Turkey. $15 U.S. built PGM-19 Jupiter missiles with the capability to strike Moscow with nuclear warheads were deployed in Turkey in 1961. American missiles could have been launched from Turkey to attack the USSR before the Soviets had a chance to react. This right here, it's you can read this on Wikipedia. I know there's a whole thing with Wikipedia not showing the evidence. I mean, not showing the evidence, but things could change on there. People can edit and put things. I've heard that plenty of times, but you just gotta just look at more than just one article. But just that alone, it already showed Turkey, so now I already know the basis of that. And I can already see what's going on. I can already, just looking at that, I can already understand what was going on. Now, I have a lot on my mind. I have to formulate my words better. Alright, so I did that. Now the Guyana crisis. Now the whole thing about this oil, I want to talk about that. Did you know back in 2023 that Venezuela and their neighboring country, Guyana, not Ghana, some people, kind of get a misunderstanding, or when they hear Guyana, they think Africa. No, it's pronounced Ghana. That's the African country. Guyana is the South American country next to Venezuela that speaks English. With some, some Creole, Most English-speaking countries, they had to speak Creole because, for example, Jamaican, Patois, Wagwan, you know what I'm saying. But they had to come out with Creole. They had to come out with a language that was broken, still English but broken, so they will understand, but not the English colonists. They couldn't understand broken English because they spoke proper English. So, that just just a little education bit right there. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, their neighboring country, Guyana, there was a little bit of there was a crisis back in 2023. Okay, Venezuela, Guyana war. All right, here it is. The long-standing territorial dispute over the Essequibo region. I hope I pronounced that right. There's a lot of words I need to pronounce and study. Region escalated into a crisis in 2023. The region is administered by Guyana, but it's claimed by Venezuela. The dispute dates back many years, and the current border was established by the Paris Arbitral Award in 1899. Okay, so why is Venezuela attacking Guyana? Or was, because that was 2023. Venezuela's interest in invading Guyana stems from a long-standing territorial claim. Sorry. Long-standing territorial claim over the oil-rich Essequibo region. Oh my goodness. Let me drink some water. You're talking for a while, you gotta drink water, because your voice is gonna get dry. And yeah. So Venezuela's interest in invading Guyana stems from a long-standing territorial claim over the oil-rich Essequibo region, which accounts for about 3/4 of Guyana's land, and President Maduro's use of the dispute to consolidate power, distract from Venezuela's economic crisis, and rally nationalist support before elections. The discovery of massive offshore oil and gas reserves by ExxonMobil in 2015 significantly raised the stakes, which makes the disputed territory even more valuable. Okay. Let me okay, so yeah, so this whole thing was about the oil. This is all about oil. That's the point I was just trying to make. I mean, y'all can do your own individual research, but I'm just giving y'all ideas and helping y'all to kind of connect with what's going on. But this right here, Venezuela was trying to take that region from Guyana because that region is rich, rich in crude oil that goes specifically to ExxonMobil. Now the crude oil that's in Venezuela, that goes to Citgo, the the Citgo gas station. Okay, so all right, I already talked about that. Check. I'm gonna put another topic down. The whole Chinese spy balloon. All right, so I got that. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm gonna end it right there because it's already think it's yeah, it's over an hour. But that's all I want to talk about. This is going to be a continuation. I still have some other points to talk about, so I'm gonna have to save that for another live. But y'all, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Till next one, I'm signing out. Later.